hi guys, welcome back. Hi, I'm Lizzie. In today's video, we'll be talking about how to write your personal statement, statement of purpose, and how she wrote her documents and her interview as well. So let's go.
Okay, so for mine, I put them into sections. I actually have 6 sections. It's very important for you to make sure that your personal statement has a flow. Because after all, the school can't really see you in person and ask you questions. So you try to fit as much information about yourself in the small little box. So think of a personal statement as your personal interview. For example, how you want to impress people. You have to understand that you need to cover a lot of the aspects that you cannot personally tell them yourself. The first one is why I want to further my studies. I told them straight like how after I graduate I wanted to further my studies immediately because I don't feel like my undergrad is enough for me and I want to further my knowledge. So that's one thing. And then the second part of my personal statement is what did you learn from your previous studies? If you have experience, like how you think it's applicable to your studies in Korea. So for undergrad, you can talk about your high schools and how you want to major in a field that you are really interested in. But for graduate, you can talk about how your undergrad studies is applicable to your major that you're gonna apply for in Korea. So that's one thing that you have to make clear of. For example, I majored in economics in my undergrad and I'm currently doing finance. So I'll tell them how like there are some overlaps between these two majors and how it prepped me for the foundation for finance so that I can make sure that I can learn well at the start of my master's program. So I told them that my economics background has actually prepped me for the understanding of the finance world, but because economics is just in terms of like the economic planning aspects, I want to learn more about finance in terms of the individual identity, which is like the businesses, like the big firms and everything. So that's why I decided to take on the journey to have my master's studies in Korea. So it's very important for you to have a correlation between your previous studies and your future studies. And then the third part, why Korea? So it's very important, like people want to know why Korea. There are a lot of plenty of like different scholarships out there, but why KGSP? So you don't have to say like, oh, I love Korea because of the culture or things like that. Just simply why Korea. I related to my personal experience of Korea. So when I was doing my undergrad studies in Japan, I managed to enroll in one of the courses which is called Modern Korean Economic Development. So I managed to learn a lot about Korea history, especially during the Korean War and how they went from being the poorest country in the world to now the 10th largest, one of the 10 largest in the world. So it's very important for you to tell them your personal experience and perceptions of Korea and how it attracts you here. And then the fourth part that I have is your past study abroad experiences, because like I mentioned before, I studied in Japan, so I have the experience of studying abroad. So I tell them like how the past study abroad skills has actually built my independence and my ability to live alone in a country where my families and friends won't come with me as well. It's very important for you to mention that because they would want to know if you are a very independent person, if you're reliable for them to give the scholarship to you, because like they wouldn't want to give the scholarship to someone who are always thinking of like, you know, I want to quit, or like, you know what, whatever, if I can't pass, I'll just quit. Yeah, they can't have people like that because first of all, you're wasting other people's opportunity to actually get this scholarship, and at the same time they don't want to let the money go to waste, because obviously if you want to quit, it means that you don't have a good experience here, and that is not what anyone will want to have it either. And then for after that part, I have my fifth part, which is apart from the program. I also mentioned how I like the culture. Like I mentioned before, why Korea, you don't have to specify why you like the culture. You just specify like your first perception of Korea and what attracts you here. And then at the later part, you can mention how like, because you are also interested in the culture, in the food, and the clothing. So that's one thing that you can include in your personal statement. I personally put down that how much I like the culture and that I won't be able to experience it in any other part of the world, because coming here I will have the first-hand experience of the Korean culture. And I also mentioned how like I have been exposed to it because of like my mom who watches K-drama since like I don't know, since I was young and things like that. Like if you have space, then try to be more elaborate, but if you don't, that's fine. A little bit of mention is enough, I would think so. And last thing is conclusion. Don't always end abruptly. always end with a good conclusion. So my conclusion, I mentioned that all of that is mentioned above, it shows how strong of my aspiration to acquire such opportunity. I concluded by saying that I want to acquire the education to help the future generation as well, regardless of where I will be working at in the future. And I will be ready to take full advantage of the scholarship if given, and to dedicate myself to be extra and more, give more in the way that anyone else will benefit. Yeah, always end it with a good note. Always end it with little promises that if you can make. Yeah, so that's how I construct my personal statement. It's very important that you have a structure so that they will be like, okay, this person is very good in management as well. The personal statement is literally just you. They will see you as the personal statement. So it's very important how you give people the impression of yourself before actually meeting them in first.
What she says is very similar to Anthony as well. Basically show why you will not waste their money, how you'll be able to adapt in Korea. So that is something that I think you guys should really take note. So moving on, how about your statement of purpose? What did you write in your statement of purpose?
For my statement of purpose, for the first part, which is the goal of study and the study plan, I mentioned that what are the courses that I want to take when I enroll in Sogang, or like future. Actually, that time we didn't know what university that we'll get into yet. So I tried to mention what are the courses that I wish to receive and what are the information that I wish to learn. Because of my lack of knowledge in finance, I want to build up more knowledge on it. So I mentioned that most of my classes that I'm going to take will be finance related. Yeah, I also mentioned that if possible, given the chance, I will also venture into other majors to learn a little bit more, like international relations. Yeah, so I mentioned a lot of that stuff as well because it's just a small thing. It's basically how you want to study. Yeah, your goal of study. For my future plan after study, because they asked if you have a future plan in Korea or another country after your study in Korea, I mentioned that I do not restrict myself to where I'm gonna be like upon finishing my studies. I specifically tell them that if given the chance to work here, then I would definitely take it because I would want to pay back to the country as well, because after all, it's a country that provided me the opportunity to actually have the skills that I'm gonna own. Personally, for me, I'm always into giving back to the society. That's why I'm more interested in economic planning, because I want to make sure that the future generation could benefit more from the current people's doing. But at the same time, I would also want to go back to my country to help contribute, and not just to help like grow my country, but also to build the relationship between the two countries, the two nations. So that's what I mentioned in my future plan as well. So don't restrict yourself to like saying that, oh, I want to find a job in Korea and stuff like that. Try to be a little bit more professional by saying that you will just accept the challenges that will come in your way, and that you do not restrict yourself to certain options. So it's very important for you to really think through what you want to do after your studies. You could even write, if you want to write, like you want to continue PhD. If you have that dream, go for it. Why not? The future plan, they don't restrict you into doing anything. They don't restrict you by saying that you have to work here. So it really depends how you write it. And then obviously try to include Korean. There's a reason why they give you the scholarship, is to build the relationship between the two nations and to provide more opportunities for you to venture into their economy and their society, and at the same time bring people over. Maybe like tell them that you want to bring the culture back and you want to help the Korean society in your countries as well.
Like in your statement of purpose, did you like include like what kind of research you want to do?
I think I wrote, if needed, I will write the thesis. Because obviously, applying for a thesis, you need approval from your professor as well, from your program leader. So it's very important that you are very clear with your mind. So for me, I did write that if given the opportunity and given the instructions, I need to write thesis, then I will prepare for it as well. I didn't write down my thesis title yet. Yeah, you don't have to if you're not sure about it, but obviously, I did write something like I want to do more research into Korea and my country, Brunei. What are the similarities and the differences, what we can learn from each other. As long as you have a goal, I think if they can see you like going towards that goal, then that's fine.
Her future plan is quite similar to mine. So basically we both mentioned how we wanted to help promote the relations between Korea and our home country. So I think that is something that you can take note as well. And of course, in the statement of purpose, if you have a fixed topic that you want to do, go for it. If you're not sure, just do a broad explanation of what field you are interested in. So bear that in mind. Moving on, how about your interview? What questions did you receive during your interview at the embassy?
For the embassy, it's a bit different. I heard from countries to countries. Mine, the panel, there were 3 people. One is my own country, Brunei's MOE representative, Minister of Education representative. Another interviewer will be the embassy representative, which is for my case, is the third secretary. Yeah. For the last person on the panel will be someone from the Minister of Foreign Affairs from my country. Yeah, she is. It's quite interesting because she is actually the first GKS student in my country. Yeah, so the question, the tough question mostly come from her because she wants to know how strong is our will and how independent we are. So she asks questions like, if you have problems here, you don't have your families with you, you don't have your friends with you, you don't really know anyone, how are you going to solve that problem, and things like that. And then they also ask about in terms of financial problems. They say that NID might give you allowance, but it depends on your spending behavior. It could be enough for you, it could not be enough for you. Some people could save, some people could not. So it really depends on how you spend your money. Like I say, scholarship is not something that pay you to travel. She asked a lot of questions like that, and she asked like, do you know that you're a representative of Brunei? Are you aware that you have to keep up to your good behavior and such things like that? And then those are the questions from Foreign Affairs representative. From the third secretary, they will read through your applications, and he was like, oh, you study in Japan, why would you want to come to Korea? And then so I started telling him about how I learned about Korea economic development, and it amazed me coming from an economics major, because he asked like what kind of languages I speak, and I told him that I speak like quite a few languages. And then he also know that I learned Japanese, and I spoke Japanese before, not now anymore, but he will ask me to introduce myself.
Oh, in Korean?
In Japanese.
Konnichiwa, hajimemashite.
He didn't even ask me to introduce myself in Korean, because he asked me if I took a classes, and I just say I took very beginner classes, and then I literally just say 안녕하세요, 저는 프리티입니다. And he liked my interview as well because he literally said it as well before I leave. So he was like, oh, thank you for your time, it was a very good interview. I hope you get the scholarship.
Wow.
Yeah, he said that. Minister of Education representative, he just asked me why I decided to go with that scholarship when Brunei also provide a lot of scholarship.
True.
Yeah, and I just tell him like, oh, I did apply for the others but I didn't get it. And this time, I literally just purely applied for this one. I didn't apply for the UK one. Then I told him, yeah, my will to learn more about Korea's economic development. Yeah,
and then
I'm
here
here
she is.
meeting this amazing person.
So basically, interview questions, it really depends from country to country. So I hope that her questions and my questions and also others' questions and other people's questions will be able to help you guys prepare for your interview. We both hope that we are of some help for you guys. So if you guys have any questions about KGSP or how to write your documents, but please don't ask us to edit your documents for you.
It's too personal. We don't want to like put ourselves in the sense that we might decide your chances of getting the scholarship, because it's something that you have to stay true to yourself. It's something that it should be about you instead of us. Like, we could give you as much guidance as we can, but if you ask us to edit it, it will be too personal and it will be too biased towards our own opinions. If you really want it, you will know how to do it.
And I'm pretty sure the different videos that I've made will be of use as well, so go and watch all of them. So if you guys found this video useful, please remember to
subscribe, comment below if you have any question, like this video, and please watch it again and again and again. Thank you.
Bye.